listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants with hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, and Ben Lee.
Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball history, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. This is episode 44, I guess, but really this is episode 40. Let's call this episode 43 plus or 43.1 because this is a special episode where we're going to be talking to the social media director of the San Francisco Giants, Brian Srabean, in a moment. My name is Willie Dills. I'm, of course, joined by my other two co-hosts. We'll start with Ben Lee. We've missed you, Ben. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be back. I've been working my tail off. Doing a lot of things.
Well,
celebrating Eli Whiteside Day.
Eli Whiteside Day, that's right. It was, a week ago?
It was about a week ago. I want to say it was on a Thursday. It's only technically a holiday in the city that he's from, but Giants fans everywhere should at least learn to respect Eli Whiteside.
Sure, why not? Yeah, Eli Whiteside, fantastic Giant, absolutely. Of course, I'm also joined by Chad King. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you for having me back again, guys. This is Brian Srabean, or not Brian Srabean. This is
Brian Srabean.
Not,
yes.
Just in case anyone wasn't familiar with the.
Is this a common problem? I imagine it's a common problem.
It's got to be common with him.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's you know what, it's just, and we talk about it with him on the show here, on the interview. It's one of those things that's just so weird it can only be real. You can't make this type of thing up.
Stuff up.
So before we get to the Brian Srabean interview, which we talked to him for a good long while. I mean, we set out to talk to him for about 30 minutes, but he was really great and he was really gracious to talk to us. He talked to us for about 50 minutes here, so we're going to get plenty of Srabean time in, and so look forward to that. He was just a blast to talk to, and as I said to him at the end, I mean, I could have talked to him for hours on hours.
Real interesting stuff.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll get that chance. I hope so. But anyway, let's talk real quickly about some of the stuff going on in the Giants universe before we move on to the interview. Before I talk about FanFest, let's talk about Pablo Sandoval here because he's playing baseball right now.
Topic.
Yeah, he's playing baseball right now, or actually he's done because he actually hit a home run in the deciding Game 7 of the Venezuelan Winter League Finals and basically just won 2 World Series in a matter of 3 months. I guess 2 months. I guess you could say.
2010 World Series, 2012 World Series, Venezuelan Winter League World Series, and now he's going to the World Baseball Classic after that.
That's right. Yeah. So this guy loves baseball. Can we all just agree on that? I mean, look,
we like a safe bet. Somehow.
Yeah,
that's right.
Maybe people want him to be doing Camp Panda and losing a bunch of weight because I saw the video of him hitting home run. I gotta say, he looks a little bit on the hefty side, but he hit the crap out of that ball. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I have any complaints about Pablo. I'm not going to jump on the Pablo needs to lose weight bandwagon. I'm just going to let the guy do what he does because it seems to be working. I mean, he went 3 for 5 in this Game 7, 2 doubles and a home run. And over the entire Venezuelan Winter League that he played in, he hit 313, I believe, something like that. I mean, He's swinging the bat. He's doing well. So really exciting to see that and really cool to see Pablo excelling at what he loves and doing it on a stage in front of his. I mean, he's a god over there. He's just unbelievably famous in his home country. So this was just really cool to see. Guess who got the win in this game, by the way?
Ooh, I don't know that one.
If you just pick a player that you might think, just anything, pull it out of the ether. Anything? It's not a name.
Say that, no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Gene Machi got the win.
Oh, Machi.
Yep. Got the win in this game. Very cool. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So a couple of Giants coming up big there in the Venezuelan finals. So that's very cool.
The San Francisco Magallanes.
That's right. So, Navegantes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Navegantes del Magallanes. There you go. Congratulations to them. All right, let's talk about FanFest. You guys are all going. It's February 9th. Begins at what, like 9 a.m., 10 a.m.?
Depends on whether you think you're going to get in or not.
10.
Okay, so doors open at 10.
So basically show up the night before.
Yeah, absolutely. And get your camping gear out there.
Seriously, I'll think about it.
It's going to be packed. It is definitely going to be packed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was packed after they won the World Series in 2010. Last year I went, and this was after they didn't win the World Series, but you still have a little bit of the hangover
Still
effect.
packed.
It's so weird for us, them not winning the World Series.
I know, it's like, what's wrong with this horrible year we had? But I took my daughter up last year, and gates opened at 10, just like this year. And we got there about 8:30 or so, and the line was, if anyone out there is familiar with how AT&T Park is set up and where McCovey Cove is and Lefty O'Doul Bridge and all that, the line went from the park across the bridge down the waterfront to the McCovey statue and then out into the parking lot area where you have all those pier parking garages. And we were way back there at 8:30 in the morning. It was absolutely insane. And so by the time the gates actually opened up, and I'm trying to have my 6-year-old actually sit there and be patient while we're waiting, the line is calmly moving in not single file, but a bunch of ants kind of moving in one line. But as you got closer to the park and crossing the bridge, there's no one there to check or control the line. So you just had masses of people from all directions just streaming in at the last second, getting in well before we did. So it was really frustrating in the sense that, me and my daughter pretty much stood in line for 90 minutes, and people who walked up 5 minutes, before the gate open got in right away and ahead of us. So just everyone be prepared to maybe curse at a few people. But I guess they were turning
doing it in front of the 6-year-old.
Yeah, but Willie, didn't you show up pretty late last year? But you still got in, right?
Yeah, no, last year I showed up fairly late because it was my birthday and we'd gone out the night before. And we dragged ourselves down there.
So you had to do laundry in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
chores.
I had to drag myself down there as soon as possible, humanly possible in my state. And but we basically, once we got there, we just walked right in. Obviously, we missed some stuff early on, but it was still fun. And we didn't get in line for anything. We just drank, took pictures, walked around on the field, watched the KNBR stuff. This year will be probably no different. So, but maybe since all three of us are there, we can do a podcast. So that would be fun if we can pull that off. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's
first we have to get in.
True.
I think we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, we'll find a way.
At least now it's not our first rodeo. The city has done post World Series fan fests before.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna get out there like 8 a.m. or anything, but
no.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm just gonna get there and I'm gonna find a way in. I'm just gonna make it work. So that's gonna be big. That is February 9th. I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that's pretty much all we need to cover. Let's just move right on to Brian Srabean. What do you guys say? Anything else?
No.
Everything else.
Just hope to see you all at FanFest next week.
Yeah, if you are going to FanFest, let me just say this real quick. If you are going to FanFest and you listen to this show, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know where you're at, what you're going to be doing. We would love to get a chance to meet up and say hi. I'll
see if I can wear my snazzy TortureCast shirt.
Oh, I will definitely be wearing mine. I will definitely be wearing mine. Chad, that's an amazing present, by the way.
Hey, no problem. Love that shirt. Sorry it wasn't a little thicker. I thought it was a little thicker material, but that's okay. It's going to be real hot next weekend, right?
That's true. I want a nice thin T-shirt, and I want the back of it to be number 24 with the name Dills on it. So that's right. I got all my wishes all at once. So that was really cool. So look for us. We'll be wearing TortureCast shirts. We should just all wear those, and then everybody will know exactly who we are. That. Yeah. All right. So let's get right to this interview with Brian Srabean. Chad, you want to hip us to some of his give us some information on who this guy is if people don't know.
Yeah, stepping all over your podcasting ability here. All right. So we have Brian Srabean. He is the social media director of the San Francisco Giants. He's been with the team for 17 years now. He actually started as an intern in 1995. He did take a 2-year absence in 2008, and he rejoined the team in 2010. And look what they did. They've won the World Series 2 out of 3 years as he's been social media director. So he took over the team when they only had 3,000 followers on Twitter. So it's pretty amazing to see the growth that the team, and everybody else has kind of led, as well as the World Series wins. But he has a sports and entertainment marketing background. He has a degree from Santa Clara University. And in fact, he's been interviewed quite a bit around the internet by The Rose Show, Gloves Off Sports, The Sports Networker, and a few others. He even won an award in January. He was named the most influential people in sports business by networker.com. So that's pretty cool. So he's a great guy. We had a wonderful interview with him, and he certainly is a bright fellow and at the top of his game.
Yeah. Now, you did mention he teaches at USF too, right?
Yes, he teaches at USF as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So busy guy. And we interviewed him over Skype. There's a couple little technical issues at some point. I'll try to clean those up as best I can, but bear with us because it sounded like he was doing it on his phone, but it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful interview and really great conversation we had with him. And he was game to talk we tried to get it to 30 minutes. We went for 50 at least. And
great Torture Cast tradition.
Yeah, exactly. In the great Torture Cast talk way too long tradition, we talked to him for 50 minutes, but he never seemed like he was trying to rush us off or anything like that. Not at all. And very cool guy and really fun to talk to him. So let's jump right into that interview right here on Torture Cast. Boom. All right, so this is TortureCast interview with Brian Srabean, who is, of course, the social media director of the San Francisco Giants. We're incredibly excited to have Brian on the show. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys, and it's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and we're all big fans of your work as social media. We're just part of the community, really. But a few years ago, we decided to start doing this podcast, and that's really kind of thrust us more into the Giants community and the social media that surrounds that. And we've gotten to watch what's happened over the last few years kind of from a different perspective, and it's been really cool to be a part of that. So we want to say thank you first, and we'll jump right on into some questions.
Yeah, it's well, thank you, guys. It's a nice compliment, and I think the fact that you're doing a podcast, it just shows how savvy our fans are and how much enthusiasm there is about the Giants. And it's really neat from my perspective to see all the fan blogs, all the fun Twitter accounts, and my job is to just kind of keep an eye on the Giants community and all things in the social sphere. So it's exciting to see the last few years how that's kind of exploded.
Absolutely. So we got kind of a structured format today, so the three of us don't step on each other's tongues, and so you don't get berated too much. But I'll go ahead and lead it off here. I'm gonna ask a tough one first, and I'm gonna get this out of the way. So you were hired as an intern with the Giants in 1995, correct?
That's right.
Okay, well, and Brian Srabean was hired as GM in 96. So were you actually in line for the GM position, or was there some sort of paperwork error? Because that just seems too odd.
It's funny. I still have not received any confirmation on this. I tried to, I thought I was actually getting hired for that job. You know what? It's a coincidence that's this is, you talk about, I'm a big fan of Seinfeld and of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And to me, this is like one of those episodes that would be, an ongoing joke that Brian Srabean and Brian Srabean both work for a baseball team. And when they started at Candlestick, there was a lot more confusion because both of us were obviously unknown. And we had the old days before email and direct messaging, you had to call a front desk and go through, an operator. And we could have a whole podcast on all those stories. So,
yeah.
Luckily, Mr. Srabean has a good sense of humor about it, and I've had my seats upgraded at various venues.
Nice.
Unbeknownst to him. So it's worked out nicely.
Yeah, well, I work with a guy. His name's Michael Jordan, so he kind of gets it from both ends. So I can understand.
There you go. Exactly.
Here's one for you. Can you briefly describe, just since we're going to be leading into a lot of discussion about this, can you briefly describe your current position with the Giants and what you might typically do like day to day during this season?
Yeah, I mean, the director of social media, which, basically means I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr all day. It's a job that's kind of evolved. It continues to evolve, but my main, responsibility is I'm the social voice of the team. And I work closely with many departments, including our communication, PR, and marketing teams. And we kind of all work together on, what are the core messages and the events and ongoing elements that are happening around the team. And I kind of funnel those through various social channels. I'm actively monitoring all the social channels and making sure that, I know what's being talked about and any trends that I need to be aware of. As the season comes, it shifts and gets a lot busier, obviously. And my job is to make sure that, fans are connected to the Giants, and we're finding new ways to do that. And beyond that, it's, looking for, emerging technologies. And, this week there's a new app that's kind of taken the Twitter world by storm called Vine, and it's a 6-second video, kind of like an animated GIF, and so that's kind of the new rage. And so
my girlfriend loves it, by the way.
Yeah, my daughter and I have been having fun making little animations with little toy figures and stuff. Yeah.
Wow, I'm feeling really out of the loop right now. Then
get on it, Ben.
So, that's it. These things, it happens so quickly, and, and one day everybody's on, Vine, and then the next day they're on something else. And it's my job to figure out, how can the Giants use this? What are fans using it for? It's definitely an exciting but challenging position, but I love my day to day with this job.
So do you find time to sleep within all of that?
I've learned to kind of, the first season and second season were a little difficult because it was also new and there was a lot going on. But I definitely have, as I get older and more experienced, you find ways to take advantage of your time productivity and making more use of the time. But so, yeah, it's definitely something that it does, social media doesn't sleep. And I think that was very evident in the postseason. We can talk about the Rally Zito, but that essentially happened overnight,
Yep. I watched that one grow up, and it was just like, wait, this, I step away for half an hour and suddenly this is a whole thing.
Yeah. So, even though you need to find time to shut it down and walk away, you also need to find a way to always be connected and to make sure that, you have people or tools in place that, and that thankfully was a good thing. There's lots of stories of, PR or social media crisis that happened.
Yeah, look at Applebee's right now. I don't know if you're following that at all.
No, I'm not. What's going on at Applebee's?
Oh my God, Applebee's is embroiled.
Blow up with the pastor.
Yeah, so a pastor decided to write on the check.
That's right.
Yeah, that he gave 10% to God, so he won't give 18% to you. They posted it on Reddit. Then the person got fired, and then it just blew up a whole thing. And now their Facebook, they're actually responding to people, like individuals, and basically arguing with the community on their page, on their Facebook page, and it's turned into quite a debacle for Applebee's.
Yes, yeah. It's been a tough week in the food industry. We had the Subway footlong controversy, and now we have the Applebee's. Yeah, so that's all going on. Then we got the whole Super Bowl, which I've been, kind of as a fan watching, but more as a fan of the social media and the trends that are kind of going on. So yeah, it's. Some of the stuff gets overblown, but that's part of it, and then, like you said, something goes up on Reddit and then it gets on the Yahoo main page and it makes the mainstream news and it becomes even bigger. So it's definitely, it's still, we've learned a lot of lessons, but it's still relatively new and people, have different opinions and strategies on how to do it. Luckily, we're in the sports world. So most of the stuff that we talk about is, the light side, and it's not too serious, and fans had a lot of fun with it. So
yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, it's safe to say that the Giants have one of, if not the strongest social media presences in Major League Baseball. And I actually looked this up, and I think this was on the SF Giants website as well, that San Francisco Giants Detroit Tigers Game 4 win was actually the most talked about Major League Baseball game in history. more even than the Cardinals Game 6 win in 2011, which was, unbelievable. But and this is all from Bluefin Labs, and I think you guys posted on the website as well. But it's kind of crazy how the Giants in particular have kind of blown up as far as the social media presence, and a lot of that I'm sure is attributed to you and the work you do. But would you tell us a little about the process of when you started out, where it was and how you've built it up, what worked, what didn't, and what you've seen about that as it's grown?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned I started as an intern in '95. I mean, first of all, I'm a lifelong Giants fan.
Sweet.
And that only adds icing on top of this whole thing, and it's been awesome. But I say that because in '95 I started as an intern in the PR department, and I had various different, jobs all the way through, and I left the organization in 2008, and I returned in 2010 to run social media. So essentially the social media thing began January 2010. Now, Matt Chisholm, who's the manager of media relations for the Giants, actually started a Twitter account for the Giants, and, was really responsible for kind of, hey, let's post our lineups and stats and scoring updates on there. And, just kind of wanted to use it as another tool for the PR department. Then when I came along, there were various Twitter and Facebook accounts the different departments had used, but decided that why don't we just, focus on one account and just kind of make that the voice of the entire organization through Twitter and one for Facebook and focus on that. So at the time, a lot of baseball teams, very few had a Twitter account or were using it. And I just decided let's experiment with it. And one of the first things that we did that we saw a lot of success was just, developing a voice, kind of a human element, and, talking like fans would and engaging with fans and answering fans' questions. And that, really we saw a huge boost. And at the time, I think we had like 3,000 Twitter followers. And of course, 2010 was a big year. And towards the end of the year, we really had established a core following. And then, the playoffs came along and things just kind of took off. So I think we learned a lot, but I think, for the most part, we had a strategy in place. We established kind of our voice and who we are. We were going to have some fun, with social media. We were going to try to, be as proactive with photos and bringing fans close to the action as possible. And, we were going to have a little fun, but still, keep the brand integrity intact. We weren't going to, say anything that was off color or, controversial, but still, it was more than what we'd done in the past or, what any sports team at the time was kind of doing. So I think, and it resonated. I think it matched our brand with our fans. We've always been a little different in terms of the way that we market our team and our players. We had Brian Wilson and Pablo and Lincecum and everything kind of going for us. So it just kind of all clicked for us at that time. And so, 2 World Series titles later, here we are. But, to your point, I think we can take some credit, but it's more the credit of our fans, that have just really used social media, in a way that, rivals any other sports team out there. I mean,
it is San Francisco. So San Francisco is kind of an early adopter almost all the time.
We are a startup city in a way. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it is. But, it's not like, again, people say that, but it's not like all our fans work at tech companies either. They're just regular people. They,
I don't think the dog is working at a startup. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like, iPhones are available in every city and the internet is available in every city. It's just, there's just something about the way that they, use it to, take, Instagram, we just crush it at the ballpark and the hashtags are just crazy. So there's just something about the way our fans take it to the next level. And I just think it's, has more to do with their, not so much their tech skills, but their social skills. It's just, it's pretty phenomenal.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of touching on a question I had a little bit later, but I'll go ahead and ask now. So when you do have fans that, start these hashtags like Rally Zito or Rally Enchiladas and all of those things. I mean, how do you keep a pulse on that? How do you know when a hashtag or certain trend or term is emerging to the point where maybe you feel like you can kind of take the reins and run with it, and even point back to maybe some of the originators of it, and just kind of roll with it as a community, and to interact back and forth and really make these things go viral, because that stuff was great last year with Rally Zito and Rally Enchilada and the like. The
Rally Zito thing to me was just like we said. It was we're down 3-1 in St. Louis, and I think everyone just kind of. I look again. It's hard for me sometimes to do my job because you're a fan and you try to be as professional as possible, but your emotions take over sometimes, and so I think like everyone, I kind of felt a little down at that point and a little tired, and I just felt like maybe it was time to go to bed or whatever. So. I was drinking heavily at a casino bar in Tahoe, so
a little different story.
Before game,
I probably was drinking heavily at home. Who knows? It's hard. It all blends together. But you wake up the next day, and or even that night, I probably saw something that, you just kind of you make a note of it, but you don't, you're not sure. But it was kind of fun to it was almost like a breath of fresh air, kind of like someone started it. And and people just caught on to it, and you could see when something starts trending, when it becomes a trend, that obviously is a cue. Look, we can get technical and talk about different social media tools and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, if you have someone in place, the eye test is your best. Someone has to really pick up on that, and like I said, I'm a fan. I've worked for the team a long time. I think you have to have a strong connection to your brand or your team or whatever it is. You have to have a strong connection to your fans, and the rest of it kind of falls into place. So I think there's no real secret other than you can say right place, right time, but I think at the end of the day, it's someone who really takes that job seriously and is that almost anticipating things, and you're looking for things like that. Totally. So, sure. I think we've tried things before and they just haven't taken. You kind of think, oh, this will be fun. Let's try to be the next meme or the next big trend, and it kind of comes and goes. And then other times, like you said, the fans will start something, and at a certain point you jump in and kind of endorse it, and then it just kind of takes off from there. Mm-hmm. So that's always fun. And I think we have that kind of relationship to where, we don't think we know more than our fans. And it's, I think some teams might have been a little nervous to jump in on something that was, organic per se. Yeah. And I think that our social media, we have such a strong relationship with the fans, it kind of goes hand in hand. So
you said organic, and that, I think that is exactly the essence of the whole social media thing, is that something like Rally Zito builds up steam because it is cool. It's awesome, and it's
very San Francisco, right? Yeah. And it's like, I think anyone outside the city might not have really, or any non-Giant fan might have had a hard time understanding. I don't really get it. What's this connection was, you have to explain the whole Zito.
Yeah, you got to say the 5-year history of this and all that. Yeah, and then the A's. I got to go all the way back to the A's.
It's like watching Beach Blanket Babylon, singing the God Bless America during one of the games. You just saw it blow up on Twitter all over. Everybody go, what is that hat? And anybody who's from San Francisco goes, duh.
Yeah, they go, this is a non-issue. Yeah,
it's our thing, and it's like, it's kind of, that's the cool thing. It's like we kind of assume our fans are in with us, and these things we can, have some fun and do that. But it definitely took off, and then it just kept going and going, and it became kind of a fun story in the social media sense, and it kind of, I think it carried a lot of us, to give us that, kind of like, fans they want to have, some say. They want to be able to say that they did something, sure, whether they wore their lucky definitely. Hat or they yelled loud at a game. This was, the chance for the social media, the Twitterverse, to really say, wow, we took part in this. And, I think I tried to identify who started it. And
I think we know. Do we know?
We do, actually.
Who is it?
It was somewhat of a disaster for me because people were just kind of jumping all, sometimes you try to, I was going to try to give that person tickets to a game, and it got kind of ugly, and I said, let's not even run a good thing. Let's just
sure.
On. But
our research has said that it's at QI at Key.
At QI.
Yeah.
It's a friend of several Giants bloggers who sort of first said, you know what. He was he's sort of very irrepressible, or was during the playoffs, and when everybody else was kind of like, well,
that's it.
We kind of did it before, but 3-1. He decided to change his avatar to Zito, and you saw a couple of other bloggers sort of follow suit, and then sort of spread from there. Since a lot of the bloggers tend to get a lot of views and other followers on Twitter who aren't necessarily part of that smaller inter-Twittering community, if you will. And sort of I stepped away from my computer for a bit, and I ate food, I think, came back and went, wait, why does everyone have a picture of Zito on their avatar now?
It happened throughout my workday for me. It was basically just watching Twitter, watching everything, being, because basically I wasn't working during this period of time. I was just paying attention to what was going on with the Giants. And throughout the day, I started to see it happen, and then I jumped on board immediately. I was like, yes, because that wasn't even just a hashtag. It was not only just a hashtag, it was create an image. I opened Photoshop, created an image of Zito, the picture of him in front of the Golden Gate Bridge with a guitar. I took that one and I put the whole thing in.
I mean, there was just a plethora of great images. I mean, that was the beauty of it. It was almost like the Twitter gods, they say the baseball gods. It was like the Twitter gods kind of were like, oh, this is great. Look at this. So that's one of those kind of highlights. And then when Ken Rosenthal breaks into the game.
Yeah, the
with,
Fox feed. Yeah.
It's officially a thing. So that, I really wasn't watching the game at that particular point, and, my phone's blowing up. They're like, oh my gosh, Ken Rosenthal and Fox. And I'm like, I was too nervous about the game to worry about that. But yeah, that was it was kind of fun. And, and ironically, of course, Barry kind of gave up Twitter years ago. So
That's true. Yeah. But he heard about this, though. He knew.
Who does it fall to tell him about these kind of things? Is it you? Is it Matt? Does sort of everybody just kind of let's just let him find out by himself? He's busy.
He was on the mound, right? So,
not
really
took off morning, but maybe after the game, or
I think there was a number of, he has a publicist that was, I had talked to the publicist earlier in the day, so she knew, and we kind of, I kind of want to get her blessing on the photo that we were going to use and make sure that, she knew that what we were doing, everything was, and she's great. And he's always been a class act. I mean, he's always acted professional, and that his Twitter experience happened actually in 2009 before, but that was kind of the Brian Wilson episode. Yeah, and it was kind of before anyone had really known what Twitter was. But it's funny how he saw a really bad side of it, and it's and it's you hear all this, oh, it's so great for celebrities to get on Twitter, and and anyone who says anything, you automatically have negative people already criticizing you for doing nothing, and then you're actually an athlete and you have a subpar performance, then it really gets ugly. And, I think that's the downside of social media. And unfortunately we see that, and not just in his case, in a lot of cases. So, he didn't want it to be a distraction. And, I applaud him for kind of, shutting it down and focusing on other things. So, but unfortunately, he didn't see the good side of it, but he heard about it. So that's always good.
So I can't help asking this one too. So can we safely attribute the 2010 World Series win to your return to the Giants front office? And how do you feel about being an organizational good luck charm?
All I'll say this is that it probably saved me from being, depressed the rest of my life if I had a chance to come back and I didn't, and then they did win a World Series. It would have been bittersweet to say the least, but I'll say this, working for a professional sports team, it's the type of thing that, especially if you're a fan of the team, you work extremely long hours. Everyone puts, sacrifices a lot of social events, whether it's a wedding or, just when you're younger, your friends are all going out and you're working long hours on the weekends and up there next day. So there's a team atmosphere in the front office. So, And, I remember back in 97 when the Giants, it was our first kind of postseason experience. And some of the veterans were just, telling us, hey, you've got to really just relish this. You just don't know when you're going to have another chance to experience, it's fun. It's definitely an exciting time. And so I think I've been extremely lucky, in my career. I've experienced a few World Series, an All-Star game, some home run records, some pretty cool stuff. So I think all of us in the front office, we're really thrilled. I mean, the Giants are a first-class organization. They bought the front office rings, for all of us. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
It really is an honor. I think we don't play. We don't we don't take credit for what happens, but we all take credit for the overall success, and we feel like it's a family there. So it's a neat experience.
I got to say, I mean, we all remember the Lunatic Fringe days and the people kind of saying, oh, we're not getting a winner because of this guy or that guy or the other, whatever reason it might have been.
Social media, or, I guess that was more just when blogging was, but there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook.
No, so, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Absolutely.
But, it's now, as a Giants fan, there's not, I mean, the Lunatic Fringe, they must all just live in caves now because as Giants fans, we have to feel absolutely blessed for what we've experienced over the past 15 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable what we've seen as Giants fans. And we talk about it on the show all the time. We have to consider ourselves incredibly lucky. I mean, there's Pirates fans out there, and they don't get this. They don't get these experiences. And we've seen incredible stuff since the new park is open, prior to the park being open. Everything that's happened over the past 15 years or so is just unbelievable. So,
no, it's a good point. I mean, I think, we remember – I remember 1982 as being like such a great year because there was, came down to the last weekend and it was like, oh, that's exciting, and and then 87, and 89 were like fun years. And then, 93 is still a year that I just will never forget in my life as a fan because you just feel like, what else do you have to do? Win 103 games and not
might be their best team ever.
Maybe.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So you're right. I think we've really this is the golden age of being a Giants fan, and I think it's having, to me, the best park in all of baseball, and having potential Hall of Famers on our roster, and having a manager that that just seems to do everything right, and it's just everything is just it's fantastic right now. It's almost I have two young kids, and I'm almost afraid of the fact they think that this is the way it is every year, and they have no appreciation for being a true Giants fan, and all the down years that we had. But it's really a special time.
I think sometimes that might be why baseball is my sport rather than football, because as I was growing up, I was like, the Niners just win. That's what happens. The Niners win the Super Bowl. And, I was born in 1980. The very first year of my life, we won a Super Bowl. And my entire, very young years, I remember all these weird memories of, my parents are drinking these funny drinks and getting all drunk and cheering a lot about this football team. And that just continued on. I was 14 years old and we won the fifth one and never again. But, as a Giants fan, it was 89. Crushed me as a 9-year-old. It was just so excited and then so mad and sad. But it's just, it builds character. And you're right saying, I wonder what the kids now are going to think. They're going to think this is how a season ends. A season ends with a World Series win. It's very strange to think about. So I want to talk a little bit about, the team now. And, the team is known a little bit for being somewhat of the Band of Misfits thing was actually kind of a tag that was given to them, but always kind of a strange cast of characters. And I'm wondering, do you guys, when the season starts, do you have maybe a strategy to portray the team a certain way, or do you just kind of cultivate that strategy during the season as you start to see these personalities develop and the fan reaction to some of the players? I mean, do you start with something, or do you just kind of wait and see kind of attitude? How does that work?
I think it's a little of both. I mean, obviously there's some that just kind of, happen on their own. I mean, the Tim Lincecum freak thing. I mean, that just kind of just happened, and he grew his hair out, and then he kind of becomes a cult figure, and everything about his story kind of lends himself to who he is, and the way he dresses, and the music he listens to, and then you've got the Kung Fu Panda, and that whole nickname, and then the panda hats, and then and of course Kruk and Kuiper are a big part of all that, and it just seems like they kind of ordain all the stuff that happens, and the baby giraffe and all these names. And then, and then you got guys like Brian Wilson that, when the height of his fame and his beard, and that just kind of, so I think it's being able to take advantage of those things. And again, we're storytellers in a way, and, we're kind of blending it all together. And, I think the Giants will let things kind of happen. We're not the ones that are manufacturing the nicknames or whatnot. In most cases, they're kind of happening, whether it's Kruk or Kuiper, it's a fan or a player, and then but we'll kind of build upon that. There might be a. The K-ville kind of came out of that because we had players that obviously were striking out. The Lincecum wigs, we sold, and the panda hats we sell, obviously, because of that. So I think there are promotions and there are kind of, mini campaigns per se that happen because a player becomes so powerful. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Melky Cabrera, but the one thing that I would laugh about was, people would think that the milkmen were actually Giants employees when No, I mean, this is, and they came, I remember running into, or actually I saw it, I saw the first post just on Twitter, and they're like, hey, we're going to be at this game. And it happened to be against, I think it was an A's game. I think my wife actually, she had like a company outing. So I was actually sitting with her, and I ran into the milkman that night. So, that type of thing just kind of took off on its own. And, and we obviously, someone in our department, met with them just to say, hey, we want to talk to you guys and see if we can, work with you or, help you out. And there was no payment of any kind. I think they might have gotten passes to one game, but for the most part, these guys were real fans. Mm-hmm. They came up with the concept themselves. And I think that's the type of thing that, that our fans are like we said, they're socially savvy, they're Giants savvy, and they come up with, we've created this environment. I love the playoffs because it's a chance for the rest of the nation to see what it's like to play baseball here. It's a little different. It's an event, and when Romo comes in now with his mariachi song, it's unbelievable. It's the place is going nuts, and this kind of environment has fostered. So I think it's a little of both, but we definitely let things happen, naturally, and let the fans kind of, tell the story, and then we kind of, take it from there.
Nice, yeah,
that's great. So, I mean, obviously, you've been with the Giants for 17 years now, which obviously is quite a run with them. But for young, well, I always want to say kids because I'm about 40 myself, but for young whippersnappers out there who are kind of looking to work into the sports, get off my lawn. Aspiring to work in this field of sports management, marketing, whatever. What kind of advice do you have for these kids coming out of college and high school?
Yeah, it's so challenging. It's just, I remember I would write letters. I still have a binder full of letters I wrote to the Niners, to the Raiders, to the Giants, to the Warriors, to the Sharks, handwritten or, typed out letters and, letters back. And now obviously things have just exploded in terms of connections and the way that we network. And I say this to young people. I say it's never been harder to work in sports, but there's never been more opportunity either. So you really have to be focused on understanding it's a numbers game. I mean, there's probably 1,000 people all fighting for the same job posting, if not more, that any, and I started as an intern, and if you're lucky enough to get an internship or an entry-level position, do what you can to do that, because that's really, your foray into the sports world or into a team. But I also tell them, hey, look look beyond teams. I mean, we obviously have great teams here in the Bay Area, but there's so many other avenues. You now have all these, video games, EA Sports and PlayStation and 2K. We have number of sports sponsors. Visa comes to mind, Charles Schwab. I mean, look at all the sports-minded agencies around. So there's other avenues into the sports world, but definitely, I mean, I'm all in this digital thing. So I'm all about, using LinkedIn, creating your own blog or a podcast to establish yourself. You have to have, you can't apply to a job anymore. It's almost, you have to, be connected to someone and they have to find you before that job is there. And it takes a lot of time. I mean, you have to have a long-term perspective for this. But if you really believe in it, and this is a passion, it really is. You have to really work hard. You have to really, network yourself to know, the right people. And sometimes it's a longer road than you expect, but you're going to have to, take a few other jobs before, and understand it's a building process to get to where you want to go. So hang in there, but at the same time, if you get a chance for an interview, you get a chance for an internship, never take that for granted, and always understand that, that's your time to shine, and you got to do something that's memorable so that, you'll continue to rise
Carpe
up.
diem.
Yeah. Carpe diem. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had plenty of internships, and it's funny, the interns that turned them into jobs and stuck around and eventually started, actually making money at these companies were the ones who basically just said, what do you need me to do? And then not only that, just came up with their own ideas and pitched them, basically, because you kind of get that opportunity to get in your foot in the door. And then that's, you're literally in the door. So now it's time to show yourself to be different from everybody else around.
Yeah, let me just add, just to say that you're a lifelong fan or it's a dream of you to work, that's just, the common denominator with everyone. So, it's a business at the end of the day. And, smart business people are ones that find solutions to problems. So, your first goal is to understand everything about, let's just say it's the Giants. I mean, get on the internet and learn everything that's going, about the Giants, what projects are involved in, their marketing strategy, what's the event schedule, find whatever job that it is you're going after, understand, don't go in there telling them they're doing everything wrong, but, if you can add solutions to, situations that they're dealing with, if you see that, they're working on a dynamic pricing angle, if you have a way to help them increase profit or decrease expenses or, increase productivity by X percent, whatever it is, whatever your niche, that's the way you have to go in there. And so I think that, even though it's sports, it's still, at the end of the day, it's a business and you have to think that way.
So we're butting up here against a half hour, so I don't want to keep you too long. So we'll jump into a couple things here. We actually asked some of our Twitter fans and have some answers from them as well as some of our own ideas here. But we're going to pitch you a couple of ideas for promotional nights. All right. So tell us what you think about these. So Chad, why don't you read the first one for him?
All right.
This came from your wife, right?
This came from my wife. I know it's long in the tooth, but this is the sentiment that she's expressing. How about exhausted moms who want a night to watch the Giants while drinking champagne and being given pedicures in the park while their husbands are home with the kids?
Heritage night.
Heritage night.
Throw that on.
Night. Yeah, so.
Mom, I love it. So, Mom Appreciation Night.
There you go.
Fantastic idea. The dads stay home with the kids, and the moms can parade around the park. We can have a shuttle and a bus, so we can get them home safely, and we can. I think actually, I mean, that's not as crazy as you might think.
There you go. So tell.
We've had crazy, right? The wheels are turning. I think I might forward this one on to the marketing department.
Nice.
I like it.
You can tell Trish that, Chad.
Definitely.
All right, so I got one for you, which is turn back the clock to old school turn back the clock night. because usually, or when I was a kid, turn back the clock night meant 25-cent beers and 5-cent sodas. What happened to that? Why is that not turn back the clock night anymore?
Gee, I wonder.
Yeah, that's a funny one. That's usually, when we announce a turn back the clock. I think, what did we do last year? The 1912 Giants versus 1912 Cubs, and there was a lot of, hey, what about nickel beers or nickel? And I think there was something that was reduced in pricing, but yeah, I'm going to stay away from the pricing of our concessions.
Okay, yeah,
wasn't there that horrible? Was it Cleveland Indians?
It was the disco night, disco demolition night.
It was like 10-cent beer night or something.
Yeah, that's Chicago. Yeah,
Disney Park. Yeah,
they had a riot. Yeah. All right, so here's another one. I don't know if you guys ever thought about doing something like this, but Nerd Night, where you have Star Wars Night, which is beautiful, but Nerd Night, gaming, comic books, LARPing on the field during the 7th inning stretch, live action role play, so guys with taped up swords and everything.
I just foresee a lot of rock paper scissors everywhere.
Yeah. And then Hot Pockets for sale at the concession stand.
So Hot Pockets is a nerd food item.
It's a stereotypical nerd food item.
Stereotypical people who can't cook item. Probably how that.
Down in their basements eating Hot Pockets. Yeah,
right.
Well, I will
Isn't
say
that the
this,
same place that most Giants bloggers supposedly hang out? So
yes, absolutely.
There might, well, yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to go there, but there are.
We'll do that for you. It's all right.
We have some promotions that have yet to be announced, so that's coming very soon. And I think there's going to be some. There's one that the bloggers I think are really going to like. I'll just kind of tease it right here. That an idea that a blogger actually promoted and kind of started, suggested, and that idea might come to fruition. So yeah, so
cool.
So just stay attention to that. But yeah, the nerd idea is interesting, and I think the whole Comic-Con world is exploding to a point that might be an idea. So
yeah, absolutely.
I certainly think seeing strange costumes at the park won't be anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's.
I don't think anyone
themes of costumes.
Oh, exactly.
They don't need an excuse.
Is it a special night tonight? I just see a lot of costumes. Well, that's every night. I don't know.
All right, so you guys have dog days of summer, and how about this? Cat days of fall. Bring your cat to the ballpark.
See, the problem with that is that, and I'm not a cat guy. I'm not a cat owner.
Disclaimer noted.
But it just seems that the cats people just let their cats roam around. There's no, at least dogs have a leash or they're very close to their owner, where the cats just kind of do their own thing, and they might end up down 3rd Street. Who knows? I don't know.
That game would be interrupted many times with a cat on the field.
Getting onto the field.
Yeah.
Come on, go out. Lay out in the sun or something.
I don't know. The seagulls might. I don't know how that's going to work.
Oh my God.
Come on, but take me out to the claw game, the 7th inning scratch. There's just so many opportunities there.
Wow,
Yeah.
Ben just rattled them off like it was nothing. All right, Chad, was this one from you? This next one? This sounds like something you want to do.
That was me.
Oh, that's you, Ben. All right, Ben.
I've had friends that used to complain about that all the time. We wanted to suggest adults run the bases. Because you get kids run the bases. It's a really popular thing, and I think it's really well implemented. And just every time I would have ex-girlfriends that were 20, 22, that was just like, I can still pass for 14, right? Like, no, but no.
That's that one. And well, here's a way for me to plug FanFest. Actually, this coming up on February 9th. And I think the one message that we're trying to tell people is that I think automatically people want to go and get in line and get autographs, and that's wonderful, but there's so many other opportunities. And one of the the coolest things I think is the ability to go on the field and play catch and even run the bases.
Oh yeah.
So coming down
for FanFest, that's
have a chance to grab a hot dog, sit in the stands, and watch whoever's on the main stage. You can go everyone loves taking pictures of themselves in the dugout, holding the phone, pretending they're calling, play catch in the outfield, hang out and crash against the wall. So there's that's really a great opportunity to come out, and it's all free. And I know there's going to be some long lines for autographs. That's why we're kind of telling people, hey, there's a lot more to FanFest than just the autograph line. So
yeah, and I just want to say, I think one of my favorite promotions so far that I've experienced, I did go to the sleepover 2 years ago after a Pirates game. So I took my daughter, and she was, I guess, 6 at the time. And we had an absolute blast setting up the tents. She was playing all the games. We played catch out in the outfield at the hitting machines, ate food in the dugout. So I just want to say that particular event is really well run. The movie at night with the hot chocolate and the popcorn. She just had a magical time. That's
one of the more popular events, and it's really amazing that, we don't really promote it at all just because it sells out almost instantaneously, because it's a very limited, I think there's only 500 people or so allowed on the field.
So much room.
Right. And I went last year with my son, and it was one of the cold. I'm not a camper or an outdoorsman. It was the coldest nights, and I remember hearing, and it was one of the things where you could hear the flags in the wind, and that just made it colder. I just felt like I was in Alcatraz. But people loved it. I just think I had to dress a little warmer next year. So,
it's super cool thing, though. Yeah, it's one of those things. Event. All right, so Ben, you have one from a fan, from one of our fans?
One of our fans, who's also a huge San Francisco sports fan in general, Amy Louie. She wanted to actually suggest SF Unite Night. I think it's safe to say that Alex Smith and Bruce Bochy made huge splashes last year wearing each other's caps. Well, not each other's caps. I don't think Bochy's cap would stay on Alex Smith's head. No. But, Alex Smith, maybe. The helmet with a little extra padding. But there was definitely a lot of talk within the San Francisco community about sort of that SF Unite, sort of that hashtag came up for Niners fans who were supporting the Giants, Giants fans who were supporting the Niners, as both seasons picked up and gathered a lot of steam. We were fortunate enough to be in the dugout the day that Bruce came out with the Niners cap on, and it immediately kind of made that striking image that a lot of people, even now, you guys are still using that image through the Twitter account. And SF Unite Night, you might need a more catchy name for it, but it's kind of a neat idea, I think, especially as so many teams in this area are starting to be a lot more relevant very quickly.
That itself was pretty amazing. I mean, I'm not a 49er fan. So, but when I saw Alex Smith wearing that hat, after every press conference or after every game in the press conference, I thought that was really cool. And then when the whole story broke, and then Bochy wore his Giants hat, and some of the players kind of said, "Hey, we've got your back." And then that's when and this is where I think the social media thing takes it, to that next level. Is we came up with that hashtag, and we said SF Unite. I didn't think it would get beyond 24 hours, but it just kind of caught on. And, our team then sent, an autographed hat to Alex. And then when Alex threw out the first pitch,
that was amazing.
Playoffs,
that was great.
It was one of those, everyone had goosebumps. It was just, and then to think of everything that Alex Smith had been through. And unfortunately, hopefully
he continues to go through,
But it was pretty amazing. Here he is getting a standing ovation, before a Giants game, this whole story. And then to me, it was really cool because the 49ers and Giants, I mean, we really haven't done a lot of promote. I mean, we kind of do our own thing, but we win the World Series, and they would send a congratulatory. But the day of the parade, there was an ad in the Chronicle, and it was
congratulations,
and they had hashtag SF Unite, and I just thought that was, I was
nice.
Very few people, I mean, that's one of those things that I get very excited about, but a lot of people probably wouldn't just think it's cool. But yeah, you're right, the SF Unite, and I think we both have come together, both the organizations, and that definitely the social media. I have so much respect for what they're doing, and we do it so differently. But it's definitely, you're right. We've kind of carried it on, and it's kind of captured the imagination of San Francisco. What could happen this weekend? So it's I like, and I think there are some wheels spinning, but for some reason, I don't know. They haven't answered our call back. They've been busy, I guess.
Maybe a little bit.
They're doing a couple things.
Jim
of rude, though.
My calls. All kidding aside, it's exciting, and we'll see what happens. What happens.
So we got a couple of real quick fire type questions. Like you can just answer these like kind of almost one words here.
I love it. Let's do it.
So all right. So I don't know if you can mention it, but what is your Twitter client? What is the one you use?
I can say it. Okay. I love TweetDeck myself. Nice. I don't know what it is. It's typically for a game you'll see, or anytime I'm working, I typically have a separate screen just for my TweetDeck, and I have
like
several
5 columns.
Yeah, 5, 6 columns.
I think Chad, you use that, right? Don't you?
I'm going back and forth, but yeah, I have a few keywords, the hashtag obviously, and I'm watching a lot of stuff. So that's my favorite client. All
right, so favorite non-baseball celebrity Twitter account.
Favorite okay, well, it's I think the newest one is the modern Seinfeld. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, the Seinfeld episodes.
So not necessarily a celebrity, but definitely a funny and interesting one. With it takes modern day. It says something like George meets his girlfriend from Match.com, and she's into Downton Abbey, and so uses popular things. From a celebrity standpoint, and you said non-athlete.
Yeah, like non-baseball. Yeah, but.
Gosh, that's I hate these questions because it's like I can't. It's like asking what your favorite restaurant is.
Sure, right. You follow a lot.
I do follow a lot, and I think there's a few people that I think are really funny. I'll say, I'm a big. I love Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon. So I love the way he uses Twitter on his show. So I have to say Jimmy Fallon does a great job. But I do follow a lot of sports people.
And he was instantly on the Vine thing. He had that video of him and Higgins just kind of looking back and forth, and then suddenly had a hat on, and then he didn't have a hat on, and he's on that stuff instantly. All right,
and of course I guess like Jimmy Kimmel too. I'm a big Kimmel.
Nice.
I love all late night talk shows. So
me too.
All the Jimmys.
All right, so real quick, Super Bowl predictions: winner, final score.
Well, full disclosure, I haven't made the fantasy football playoffs in years. I'm not a big bettor.
Hopefully there's not a front office pool.
No. Well, there is, but it's typically the different stuff. Will Jay-Z show up on stage or not? We take it. And I'll be watching more of the social media stuff, so I won't be paying attention. But I've got to say that this game it just sounds like the Niners. This is their year. I would think it's going to be a low scoring game just because I think both defenses are just going to beat each other up. Kaepernick's going to have 2 big plays, one to Crabtree, one to Vernon Davis, and I think they're going to win 28-21.
All right. I like that. Yeah. Okay. So if you could predict the next guy from this new 2013 Giants team that is going to develop a cult following, social media wise, whatever it's going to be. And a lot of these guys are back, obviously, but who do you think is going to be the next kind of guy who we're going to find out is really interesting and really going to create that cult following on this year's Giants squad?
There's 2. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen, but Brandon Bell started his Twitter account.
It's been amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Now we know he loves the Olive Garden.
He loves Olive Garden, right?
He loves the Olive Garden. He loves karaoke. He's so down to earth. He's just, and he engages with fans a lot. And he's, and I think the best is kind of the banter that, Brandon Crawford and some of the other guys are kind of giving him a hard time because he's just like a kid in a candy store right now. So I think because he's so new with Twitter and he's still relatively, a young player, he's, this is years for season 3 for him, but I think he's going to be a lot of fun. I think George Kontos, though, also, I don't think fans know him quite well because he's in the bullpen. There's so many big personalities down there, and it was his first year, but he's been really fun to watch. as well. So I think those are the two new guys that I'll keep an eye on. Of course, and Hunter Pence, we started to get to know Hunter obviously with the speeches and all that, but he's like a social media superstar, just waiting to happen. So I mean, he did a video of him doing a backflip. He's got such a great personality. I haven't really had the chance to talk to him or work with him because the timing was just so fast. So I think we'll see what happens. So I think we've got some great guys, but that's the cool thing is I could tell you this, and someone else might jump up and start doing something fun. But we've got a lot of fun personalities on this team, and it's my job to make sure they kind of blossom and our fans recognize that. So it's a great time.
Well, you know what? We got to say thank you again, Brian, for joining us. It was really, really fun to talk to you. And I honestly, I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours because all three of us are constantly on Twitter and always looking at what the newest Giants thing is, what the newest meme is as far as the team goes, what the community is saying. So it's really, really a treat for us to get to talk to you. And we just want to say thank you very much for taking the time out for us.
Thank you guys for first of all for letting me do this. This is great because I totally appreciate our fans, and I appreciate all the different channels that they're using. And again, hey, some of those ideas you threw at me, I definitely am going to pass them along. And I think the cool thing is that we do listen, and if anyone wants to pass any ideas my way or the Giants' way, you guys know the Twitter handles, and we're always looking to improve our Twitter, especially the Twitter, but just I guess the social media presence. So if anyone has ideas on how we can do it, I usually don't have to say that because they tell me in not so nice ways, but definitely, I mean we don't think we have all the answers, and I think that's the one thing is that we're always kind of learning and trying to get better every day. So I appreciate the time.
So people can follow you at Srabe, right? SRABE.
That's right. I'm at Srabe.
And then so do you have the only set of keys to the SF Giants Twitter handle, or are there several wizards behind there? Like when you're sleeping, someone else actually operates the account.
No, there are other people who have the keys. I mentioned Matt Chisholm and a few of our PR team, and they basically. They tweet all the important stuff, the transactions and anything that's breaking news type of stuff. So they don't have to funnel it through me. I'll kind of keep an eye on all the fun stuff, the Rally Zito and the answering fan questions and just kind of day-to-day stuff. So I've been busy lately, but yeah, as we get into spring training, it's definitely a team effort, and a lot of people are behind the scenes helping the Giants at social media. So I often get credit, but there's so many other people that are behind it. So it's a great team effort.
Very cool, man. Well, thank you again for joining us, and everybody out there follow him on Twitter. And again, Brian Srabean right here on TortureCast. Really, really cool to talk to you, man.
Thanks, guys.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying we'll see you next time.